Hello, everybody. Gail Craft here, and I'm so excited to share with you today a conversation that I had with Monika Krimendahl. Monika is a business owner of Blitz Bee Marketing and Click Riot, which is a software company. And she shares with me her story of finding herself divorced with three young boys and life just a chaotic mess and things just slipping through her fingers. And she finally woke up and what it means when you learn how to take responsibility and take control of your life and actually get things done. So I want you to join me in a conversation where Monica talks about a cobra in the room.
You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Craft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Craft.
Well, hello, everybody. Gail Craft here from the Empowering Process podcast. Thank you for joining us. I have with me, and Monica, just help me if I get your name wrong. It's Monika Krimendahl. Is that good? Okay. And Monica, welcome, Monica. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Gail. I'm so excited.
It's going to be so much fun. And so, Monica has an amazing business and an amazing mission in her life. And her mission is to leave a legacy. And so, I want to talk a little bit about what drives people to do what they do. So, and I'll start with me. Many of you have heard many of my stories, but the most important part of it is throughout my life for a long time, I really felt disempowered um, and unattached and was constantly looking for connection and family until the day that I woke up. Many days, believe me, I've had many wake up calls, not just one. But this particular wake up call was when I realized that I am family, I am the connection, I am source. And when I made that shift, it was almost like the gears clicked together. And that really is what I'm driven to do for others. Help them get their wheels to click. And for many, Monica, they're people who are already successful and they're like, well, this ain't doing it. What's missing in my life, right? And it's really interesting what we find out. So, Monica, you can take yourself off mute. Tell us a little bit about what is your history that drove you to, and then we're going to talk about what it drove you to in Blitz B and so much more that you do.
There's so much in that one question. I'm
I
like trying
know.
to think about like how do I, pare this down to um I would say for me a big like moment was my divorce. I got divorced and I always say you don't go into marriage, but I didn't go into marriage ever thinking that there's a divorce. I'll get divorced someday. That's not even a thought or a possibility. And then there I was, three boys, and divorced. And I hadn't worked because I was the stay-at-home mom. Before I had the boys, I was an elementary school teacher. I taught kindergarten to fifth grade Spanish and then elementary school. And then once the boys got into school, I got into like, what do I want to do for me? And how
Right.
do I want to fulfill, myself by supporting myself and the world? And so then I was a yoga teacher. Then I became a massage therapist because I loved the transformation I saw in yoga, knew I wanted to learn more. So going to massage school was the next step. And I had done a lot of transformational work. I had done a lot of work on myself because trying to raise three kids at home by myself wasn't easy. even as an elementary school teacher, it was super challenging. The boys had a lot of energy,
Yeah.
and managing them, and it was hard for me. I
So
wasn't
let's
one of
talk
those
talk
moms that.
a little bit about that kind of journey, and then I'll go on. So personal development is it's not a one and done deal. It is a journey. It is a quest, and it is in layers. And so a term that's been used a lot, and thank goodness I don't hear it that much anymore, is called unpacking. But as you unpack, you take the top load. So you take your shoes and your sweatshirts out, and then underneath are your jeans and your shirts, and then underneath that is your makeup products, and right. And so there's layers and layers and layers. And the thing is the suitcase is bottomless. And so when you started, the yoga and massage are a typical place for people to start, and it's an awesome place. So let's talk a little bit about that process, and then how personal development kind of brought you to a different level.
Yeah. I had a tendency to be a little ADHD. I don't like to put labels on things, but that if there was one label that kind of would fit that would be it. I was all over the place. I had a lack of organization inside my own brain and just kind of was all over. I would forget appointments. My kids were supposed to go to the doctor. I had 3 kids running around, and the milk would spill or something would break, and we missed the doctor's appointments because shit was happening and it was hard for me to manage.
Right.
And I did a lot of pointing fingers over there, looking outside myself for a really long time, thinking they're at fault, this is at fault, my ADHD is at fault, my brain is at fault, my parents didn't raise me right, my teachers sucked, I didn't get the right education, I didn't whatever that BS, if you don't mind me saying, bullshit is. I
Right.
was pointing my fingers outside and not really taking ownership.
Right.
Once I got to that point where I was like, oh shit,
it's,
everything that
it's
happens
my
to me in my
fault.
life is mine.
Hmm.
Everything that's going on is mine. I am 100 and 1010% whatever responsible for everything.
Well, I will tell you, Monica, my point when I took that responsibility, I'd gone down a terrible rat hole and toxicity and mean. It was just horrible. The person I had become because of outside influences, I thought. And when I looked in the mirror and said, there's a common denominator in my good things and in my bad things, and in my moves and in my life, and that's me. I have to look at the common denominator, right? So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. And that's the first step for me, was my first step, noticing, oh shit,
Mhm.
I am responsible. I am creating all this chaos. And even if it's beautiful, I'm creating that too. So every piece and every part of it I'm creating, is it what I want? And how do I make it workable? Or do I dump it? Or what do I do with it? So the first step for me was just noticing, holy cow. And then, realizing I'm the one that gets to take the horse's reins and say, okay, if I'm riding the horse of chaos, pull those reins, move that horse on the path of freedom, move that horse on the path of love, move that horse on the path of whatever it is that I want, instead of chaos or roller coasters or whatever that shit is. And I
Mhm.
still, I mean, even at this time, I've been in this work a long time, it feels like, and I'm still riding that horse into chaos sometimes, or into the roller coaster. And if I don't pay attention, I miss it. And
Well,
I
some
once heard
go
from
ahead.
Christiane who is it? I just lost it. Anyway, there's a sage or a saint, Christian Moridi, who said, watch your mind like it's a cobra in the room. So if at any point I'm in the room with a cobra, there is not 1 second that's going to go by that I don't know where the cobra is, because it'll kill me. And so we want to watch our mind in that same way, because
That's
our
interesting.
minds take us into crazy town. So watch your mind like it's a cobra in the room. When I heard that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was
I
like,
love that. A cobra in the room. I've not heard that. I call it or liken it to I'm awake or I fall asleep. So I'm awake, I'm paying attention, I'm in the present,
yeah,
or I allow myself to not pay attention. Therefore, the I, went to sleep,
yeah,
right? And when you go to sleep, what happens? You have no control over your subconscious. It goes in dreams any way that it wants, which is also not true, but that's a whole other story. But if you don't give it direction, you will go all over the place. And
yeah.
so going to sleep is what happens, and you fall into the old comfortable patterns until the new patterns are stronger, right?
Yeah.
So you woke up, you took accountability, you went down this personal development process. And what was that like for you?
It was a series of find the right teacher, outgrow that teacher, find the next teacher. Maybe that one didn't fit, find the next teacher, and then really realizing that I am the teacher and I am there to teach myself. And just like every professional athlete or every really, really, I mean, like the professional athletes still have coaches. Even though they're at the top of their game, they've got a coach to help them with running, a coach to help them with nutrition, a coach to help them with mindset. So they probably have a multitude of coaches. I need a coach and I will still need a coach because I'm not just out here flailing on my own and I can't always see what's right in front of me. And so I still need that coach always. And it's an interesting game of finding the coach and then either outgrowing the coach or outgrowing whatever that coach had to offer to me to
Hmm.
finding the next coach or the next level, the next layer. And
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm totally cool with that. And I wasn't at first. I thought this is my person and this is my coach for life. Well, then you just evolve and it flows and it ebbs and you move on. And then I found another coach, and I realized that she was not clear. She sounded clear, she seemed clear, and she told me a story of what was in the room with me with other women, and it wasn't mine. And it was that I was sexually abused. And I was not sexually abused, but she told me that I was. And because I believed her, she was a sage. She was a teacher. She was, I had put her on a pedestal. And then I had to do a shit ton of like rewind because she told me I was abused. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh my gosh, I believed it. And then I realized, okay, wait a minute. The way she told the story to me was the story of four people in the room, but it wasn't my story. She was confused as to whose story it was because the story was in the room. And four of the women in the room that I was with actually were sexually abused in this way, but I wasn't one of them. And she made the mistake of thinking it was me. I made the mistake of trusting her enough to believe her and then going down that path of like, holy shit, into this whole story that was imagination. And so then that was a big learning for me too. We're always in learning, and it was a lesson I needed
Yeah.
to learn. And some lessons I learned like really quickly, and some lessons I needed just to get completely smacked down multiple times to learn the lesson because I just didn't get it. And so the universe just came back and said, you didn't get it the first time. No problem. I'll bring it to you again.
Right, right. So my big ignore the universe story, right, is that of accountability. I used to think that integrity meant I make a commitment, I'm going to follow through. Well, and there were many times I made a commitment and it fell apart, and I knew it didn't feel right, but I still made the commitment. So I wasn't listening to my intuition. And the last time that happened, it was a major F up. And I mean major, to the point where I was literally dying on the couch. I felt like I was having a heart attack. And at that point, I said, okay, I have two choices. I can go call 911 and then now I'm going to have heart issues. Or I can figure out what's the lesson I'm not listening to because I don't want to do this anymore. and, and give up the struggle and accept that when you make a commitment and you don't follow your instinct, it's going to fall apart. And that accountability and integrity really means you make a commitment, something changes, you break the commitment. And that would have caused much more honor in every case where I made a commitment that was an overcommitment. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess the one thing that's just coming up for me as you're saying this, and I mean, we don't need to do this right now, but it is a question in my mind. Like, I hear you in terms of commitment, I hear you in terms of integrity, and I also know that when my mind is not following the cobra in the room, I'm asleep. So at what point do you know inside of your commitment and your integrity that you're either inside of your I'm not following the cobra or I'm asleep and I'm breaking this commitment, but I'm actually out of my own integrity because I'm not present and I'm not in that aware state, or I'm breaking this commitment and I'm really in my conscious self and it's okay. And like, what does that look like?
Well, this this is where it's really important for people to know what it feels like when they follow their intuition, right? What it feels like when you feel, I have this feeling, right? And if I'm going in the wrong direction, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. And as soon as I'm feeling that, I have to stop and say, okay, so what am I doing that I should be doing differently? Right? Where is the direction I need to go? That's obviously not this. And it could be just a slight change. Doesn't have to be major, but I have to honor that I'm feeling the chalkboard incident. Right. And everybody is different because how you connect to your higher intuition is different. Right. And so it's
Yeah.
learning. Some people literally hear voices, right? Some people get a push. Sometimes I get pushed, right? And some people like me have this feeling in their gut. So really, when you learn to be quiet and practice every day being quiet with yourself and just listening to yourself, you start to tune into those feelings. And then when you start honoring them, you get them stronger and stronger. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. 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 Well, I was just curious, for the listener who's listening to that and may just be confused about those two things, but for
Right.
sure I got you.
Right. And so you went down this path um of facing yourself, right? Taking responsibility for your own BS. And so where did that lead you to?
Well, it eventually took me to my divorce. And then once the divorce was final, I realized that I was responsible for that too. And now, when you dance, you can't, you can't do the waltz or the tango all by yourself. So you have a partner and I'm still responsible. So it's not a but thing. It's not he's responsible, but I'm responsible, but he's responsible. It's an and.
Right.
So I get that I am responsible. And in the end of the day, if I just take responsibility fully for everything, it just is, it really is what it is. So really look out for myself, scrutinize where to take responsibility. So I took responsibility, changed a bunch of things, went to more classes, found new coaches, found Landmark Worldwide. Don't know if you heard of them before,
Yeah,
but
of course.
I love Landmark, still in Landmark, still take Landmark seminars, courses. I'm in the leadership team there. It has supported me in really being grounded because I was really in the spiritual world, which isn't bad, but sometimes then I felt like I got a little foo-foo and a little bit like that. But Landmark isn't that. It's not religious. It's not, it has nothing to do with any of that. And it's not about being spiritual. It's about reality. And it's
Hmm.
about looking for that reality in your life and when it's showing up or not showing up, what's working and what's not working. Really, just plain and simple, grounded and down to earth. And so since I've been taking those courses, that is when my business partner and I created Blitz B, that blitz of like running around like a chicken with her head cut off, and the B of who are we being, Then I wrote my chapter for, let's see if I move my fingers, Get Shit Done,
Which just
um,
came out.
which is now an
Ta-da!
international bestseller.
Yes.
So exciting. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, in the process of writing Get Shit Done, my chapter is called The To Do versus the To Be List, which is really that blitz and the be. Like we're
Right.
running around, we're checking the list, we're doing the things, and who is it we're being while we're doing that list, and then also realizing that that to-do list is finite. That to-do list is inside of a box. When I look at my to-do list now, I get to look at my to-do list and say, what's missing from my to-do list? Obviously my state of being, but what else am I missing when I'm in that doing mode instead of who am I being? Almost like we were talking before, you said there's a present, and then there's
Mhm.
the being awake, and then there's the being asleep. Sometimes I get into my to-do list and I go to sleep because I'm just checking the to-do list and I'm sound asleep. And so I can check the to-do list sound asleep and still get it done, but I'm always going to miss something because I'm sound asleep while I'm doing it. And so I really need to bring in presence.
Right.
What's missing? What's not on the to-do list that could be that maybe is a brand new possibility I never thought of, or is bigger than the to-do list. And so that's really what my chapter is about. Where's your commitment inside of your to-do list? And so we're really looking at what we were also just talking about. When you're
And,
committed, what
and
is it?
does the to-do list inspire you? Because if it doesn't, it's going to be a to do tomorrow list,
Well, I
right?
can't say that everything that goes on my to-do list I'm inspired by. I am not interested in doing my taxes. There are parts of my taxes I have to do. I don't like to do certain things, but I don't get to choose. I mean, some of those things you just have to do. And I always say, if it doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. And we have to be real. I don't like to clean my house. So it doesn't bring me joy. So I look at how much does it cost to get a house cleaner? How much does it cost to have somebody mow my lawn? Those are things I'm not in love with. The things that I'm not in love with, what are those things I can pay someone to do that is less than my salary? So if it's 20
Right.
bucks or less and I can pay somebody to do it, you know what? Have at it. If that's what brings you joy, bring you joy and clean my house. And when you leave my house and the whole house is clean, I am so joyful. I'll pay you
Right.
that money and I'll send you out the door. You are in joy and I am in joy. And oh, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I can remember the first time I had someone come and clean my house when I walked in the door and the fan was dusted. The railing going up the stairs, that rim was dusted, right? I mean, I was like, oh God, this is just so fantastic, right? To come home and have someone, and you're right, it really is. I will say that sometimes some things I have to do, you're right, I have to do, and they're not the most fun things, but I see at the end that I'm happy with the result. And so if I can focus on, so sometimes you have to eat a couple of frogs. So, or what is it? Kiss a couple of frogs to get to the prince. I don't know. Right. Right. Whatever that saying is. I guess you don't eat the frog, you kiss the frog.
Well, I have heard eat the frog too. There's a whole bunch of them like this on your to-do list, like eat the frog first. So
Right.
what's on
Right.
that list? The one thing you don't want to do that you hate, do it first.
Oh,
Get it
yes. I'm
off
a
the
front
list and be
loader.
done with it.
Yep.
You
I'm a
know.
definite front loader. Yep. Yep.
So
um,
whatever that takes.
whatever that is. One
Yeah.
of the other tricks, and maybe we could share here, and I will attribute this to Abraham Hicks. And Esther at one point was overwhelmed. She was in a swirl and had, quote, too much to do. And she was at a cafeteria with her husband, and she sat down and got inspired. She drew a line down the middle of the placemat. So it's called her placemat exercise. On the left-hand side, she wrote things I can absolutely achieve today. On the right-hand side, things I leave up to the universe.
Mm.
So she wrote down things that she knew she could accomplish, right, today, and then wrote everything else that was on her mind, and then she threw it away, right? Because that's not the Bible. That's another thing. So you were talking about getting the to-do list in a box, right? It's just a suggestion,
Mhm.
right? And so you now have a process. You now spend a lot of time on growing, and you have a business partner, and you've gotten into a business. And what is the drive behind your business and this legacy that you want to leave to the world?
Well, we help business owners grow their business. So everybody's got a big dream. As the entrepreneur, we walk into this really big dream, and then we notice all the roadblocks that are standing in the way. And everything that gets into our way either keeps breaking us down and then we quit, or we just keep pushing through. What's the next roadblock that's in my way? What's the next roadblock that's in my way? So that's what we love to do, support people through their roadblocks, look at the marketing, look at how things are going, what's not working, what you've tried, and we have a software company called Click Riot where we automate. So we have joined lots of different platforms into one out of simplicity, especially for ourselves too. So there's no Calendly or anymore, or Acuity, whatever you're using. There's no funnel builder anymore. It's all inside one software. And I look for myself and for our team and for our clients for automation. What can we automate and what can't we? Obviously, client interaction, there's pieces we can automate, but I'm never going to automate the actual relationship. We
Right.
want to keep pieces of it to be real and to be in relationship. But what are those things that the client doesn't see, or that's on the backside, or that can be automated so that I have more time to actually spend with my clients? And as we're in that process, I love just supporting people's dreams. So, and then noticing where you stuck. How do we help you? What are the tools that we have to help you get through wherever you're stuck? And part of that big dream is helping entrepreneurs achieve their big dream.
Of
And the
course.
other second part of that is finding young entrepreneurs. Eventually, we haven't started this program, but this is a dream of ours, to start for high school kids or for young college students, teaching them our system and having them start their business before they leave college, before, while they're in high school, if they don't even want to go to college, because everybody isn't college material. Some
Thank
people
you.
are, some people aren't. Great. I don't have anything on it. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, great. Find what works for you. And so as an entrepreneur, you don't have to go to college. Now, I encourage my children to go to college for the experience, for the growth, for the growing, for whatever, and whatever. So it's a long story, but you don't have to. It's not for everyone. And the traditional route isn't for everyone. So find what works for you. And if we can support people in their big dream so that they can grow, whatever that dream is for them, I'd like to eventually have my sons or one of my sons or my grandchildren or someone take my business over and bring in some young people into our business eventually and have them start to take it over at a young age and then hand it off. Probably not ever, like hand it all off, but enough. Hand it
Eh,
off a little bit.
So so where do you live? What city town do you live in?
Michigan.
Oh, Michigan. Okay. So there are a couple of colleges that I know, colleges that's their thing is entrepreneurs. One of them is Babson College in Boston. And that's it. You go there, and many multimillionaires have gone to that school, right? It's definitely, a great place if that's what you're looking for. And there's another one, Nazarene in San Diego, that is for young entrepreneurs. And what's really interesting, if you can bring it to the high school level, is people who haven't yet been jaded, right? with the struggles of life, that are in a safe cocoon, so they still have, room and board taken care of, right? Are so much freer, right, than those who have become emancipated, because emancipated means you're taking care of yourself, you're paying your own bills. So if you can get to people emancipation, right, you can tap into this creative juice that will sustain. Once they taste it, once you taste the apple, take a bite of the apple, that's it, you're done. Right? So what a great dream for you to have. And any of you listeners out there, if you know any way that you can support Monika, do let us know. Um, because to take her dream and her business to the next level would be amazing. Amazing. So if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
They can find me, Monika Krimendahl, on LinkedIn. And my email is Monika, Monika. It's a K, not a C, at blitz, BLITZBE.com, blitzb.com. And we have Click Riot, 20 free leads if people are interested in leads. And if they just want to look at their marketing or look at, the system that we're using to really simplify all their marketing, we can support them in all kinds of ways. We don't have a cookie cutter program. I really look at what the business is doing, what they've done, where they want to go, and then, what is the best way to support them from here.
I love it. Thank you
Almost
so
a
much.
Montessori approach.
Ah, fantastic. Fantastic. So this is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. All of that information will be in the notes. So if you didn't get it written down, don't worry. Just go to the notes and you'll be able to access how to get in touch with Monika, and a little bit more about her business will be in there. Thank you so much from the Empowering Process podcast for listening to us. If this inspired you, do let us know. If you know someone who could benefit from this podcast, share it out to them. And as always, give us a thumbs up and subscribe so that you know when the next episode is available. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.